You just hear the words private equity. It has a fairly bad reputation in the sports world, maybe in the world at large. Do you think that's warranted?
I do think there's some truth, and, stereotypes often become that way because there have been examples. But by and large, I think the very successful funds are those that are driving innovation and are driving growth, that aren't coming in and purchasing companies and, laying off tons of workers and stripping out costs and selling them. The private equity funds that are investing in sports and entertainment that ultimately will be very successful are the ones who are kind of customer-centric or fan-centric in that case, and will, continue to innovate and invest in those properties. It absolutely requires a long-term mindset versus a short-term return.
It seems to me, right, and I think we've talked about this, that especially in pro sports, as these franchises, the valuations on these are so enormous, and there's such a small subset of people that can come in and buy a team on their own. And even to go find enough minority partners is more and more of a challenge. It seems like the leagues are going to have to relax some of the private equity rules on team ownership, allow greater and greater percentages. Do you think as that happens, if I'm right, we as fans see any impact on sports and entertainment? Or is this all more behind the scenes machinations, and those of us who work for the teams will feel an impact, but the world at large won't notice?
Hopefully it's a balance, and that it really wouldn't be visible, I think, to the average fan, but could add some of the value that private equity brings to many industries, which is, again, the innovation, the efficiency. Most private equity fund partners have been very successful in big businesses. How do you bring that to a team that has a huge brand and a huge value, but typically is a pretty small organization? I think that on the risk side, and the reason for balance is you absolutely have to have patient capital in a team that, many teams in a great win the World Series year are profitable, but are break-even enterprises whose, equity value only increases over time because they are doing the right things for the fans. And so you have to have that right balance of, folks that will come in and can drive growth and drive innovation, but at the same time, be patient enough and not be trying to manage it like a short-term business.
Based on your experience in this space, if a team or even a university, because as we know, private equity firms are having conversations with universities now, if they're considering this type of investment, you have a few pointers on here's what you got to be thinking about, or here's a shorthand process to start with so that you don't end up with the wrong partner or in a bad situation?
Yes, I think that is probably a huge risk, because I think as much as sports and entertainment has been the darling the last few years for funds, I don't think it's well understood, and it is different than a lot of, very traditional industries and businesses. And so both parties have to be committed to a long-term outcome, and to be really clear about what things can change in the near term and in the long term, and where that return is going to come from.